Let's talk about everyone's favorite activity, gambling. Seems gambling is at an all-time high with so many different outlets to indulge in this vice. Options trading, meme coin trading, sports betting, and even online casino markets. Embarrassing to admit, but I've had my fair share experience with practically every one of these forms of gambling, and I want to share how they impacted me both mentally and financially. Because I would be a lot further along if I wasn't so set on fast, easy money. That constant desire to hit one major play to propel me financially in life. Hit $700,000, hit $1 million, and never have to work again. But that money goes just as fast as it comes in most cases. So let's start at the beginning on how this entire financial freedom journey started. Back in 2020, just like everyone else, I wanted to learn how to trade stocks. In my opinion, probably one of the best times to get into the stock market if you had done it correctly. But I unfortunately fell down that rabbit hole of trading options. Anyone familiar with the market performance of 2020 knows everything practically went up after March. So winning a few call options had me believing I was some sort of genius trader and ended up playing earnings, and that blew up my account so many times that I could count. I was liquidating shares from my long-term portfolio to fund capital for more trading income. And till this day, that Robinhood account is still down in the negative. But luckily, I haven't messed around too much with options since then. Now, something that still haunts me to this day is last year, I got heavily invested into one particular meme coin. I believed in the narrative online and everything made sense to me. But again, I believed I was some sort of genius who figured out the market cycles and could front run attention on where people would be entering the market and what coin they're going to be buying. It's completely wrong. I was up about 100,000, which was my goal. I wanted to get to 6 figures liquid and liquidate the money so I could buy inventory for my business. As I was getting closer and closer to the number, I was just so greedy. And I just kept thinking we're just going to keep going higher. So it wasn't an overnight play. I bought it March on my birthday, actually, on my 26th birthday. For a whole year, that portfolio was growing at a pretty good rate. I would buy on every dips, and over time, you just started to see the portfolio was heading towards 100,000. And again, I really bought into that narrative, so my expectations just kept changing from 100,000 to 200,000, 300,000, etc. And long story short, I ended up losing it all. And because of that, I didn't have enough money to buy inventory for this year to sell, which we'll get into a little bit later. And more recently, started getting into this thing called prediction market on Robinhood. It's sports betting on football and basketball, and I figured, hey, I watch a lot of sports with my friends. We could definitely figure something out to where we could make some money on the weekend. It didn't take long for me to quickly stop and realize I don't want to head down this path again. I feel like the past 5 years I've really set myself back financially. I mean, I've stayed out of debt, luckily. I haven't used any leverage. But like I said earlier, I could have been further along this financial freedom journey if I hadn't been so fixated on this gambling culture. So in each of these stints with gambling, like I said, I was just so mentally drained. I was so consumed with checking prices on my phone, and I practically spent the entire year last year listening to crypto live streams on YouTube, Spaces on X while I was driving. I was even checking the prices on Deck Screener at work, at the gym, in the car, in the shower, and it would literally be the first thing I check in the morning and the last thing I check before bed. So my entire life was consumed with numbers on a screen. of some stupid cartoon character that I thought was going to change the entire direction of my life. Not a good look. It was pretty embarrassing how many screenshots I had of charts. And I think my buddy and I, who were both in this coin together, we kind of calculated how many months we were in the positive and then how many months, the coin was trading sideways. And I think in like 15 months, only 2 of the months we were so ecstatic about the prices hitting all-time highs. And there were so many moments where it would crash or we'd experience a major pullback. And just mentally, man, that was so exhausting. I mean, even talking about it is giving me so many bad memories. What it was like being so consumed with meme coins. But I say all this to say I'm far from perfect. I don't want you guys to think that I'm trying to be holier than thou and say stop gambling. I'm speaking from personal experience. I wish I would have listened a little bit more when I was younger, as I probably would have strayed away from this. But hopefully there's somebody out there young and listening to this, and I'm stopping you guys from making a terrible decision or going down a vice that a lot of people lose their whole lives to. I'm kind of lucky that I didn't let it consume me to that point, but I could easily see how this could have gone on for years or even decades. So I've lost a lot of time, money, and opportunity in just as short a span of 5 years from gambling, more than I'd like to admit. But sure, there are individuals out there who succeed at trading options, crypto, stocks, and in some cases even sports gambling. But I've kind of come to this realization that I'm not one of those people, and that's completely okay. Instead of being so consumed with hitting this big play, I'm happy with taking more calculated risk in my business that are more of a consistent basis of small to medium plays. Something that I can control, and building a real long term that I'm not so fixated on price. Now I'm not so focused on opening my phone and checking my portfolio every single day, kind of buying into the long term play and understanding that this isn't a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year thing. This is something I plan to do and hold for decades. So sure, I was young in my early 20s playing options, and in my mid 20s fumbling this meme coin bag. But this vice can easily continue into my 30s and delay any of the goals I have for the future. I can already see the impact of my decisions in only 5 years. For example, being greedy last year left me with limited capital to allocate to inventory this year. So I ran into a big issue of running out of profitable items selling early into this year. And if I want to scale this business to any legitimate numbers, that's not a mistake that I can make year after year. At that point, this easily goes from a business to a side hustle very quickly and completely altering the timeline of what I plan to do. So looking back at some of the stocks I sold off for options trading, I had Tesla, Apple, Nvidia pre-split, and at even one point I had over 100 shares of PLTR for dollars. And now that share price is approaching $200. It's like 180, 190. All that money wasted should have been compounding in safer assets in legitimate stock companies, I believe, VOO, Bitcoin, or even just inventory. In the short term, those returns don't seem like much, but over a 5+ year period, compounding really starts to gain momentum quickly. A lot of that gambling money could have also been used to finally start a business that you guys always wanted to do. Moving to a better location for work opportunity, gas in your car, groceries, or even hobbies. The money definitely adds up, and the sooner you realize, the better. So it's a difficult conversation to have with yourself. I think it's in our genetic code as men to seek risk and want to be that guy in the meme mining for gold and finally hit gold. But I understand now that everything has risk, and it's better to take those opportunities that have better variables that can be controlled as opposed to solely relying on luck all the time. There's a famous story of a man who was obsessed with the idea of living forever, who ended up dying trying to find the solution to live forever. Same thing can happen in this vice. You spend your whole life gambling, trying to win, only to end up never winning at all. So this gambling epidemic is only going to get worse. Every YouTube ad I receive is some AI-generated Kalshi promo. We have legit brokerage platforms like Robinhood encouraging a prediction market on sports and other events. Like, what words would the CEO say during their press conference? Or what suit will they wear? Or what item will be thrown at this game, etc. Everything is just becoming a bet on what's going to happen. And that is just a degenerate society to be living in. So with debt becoming an all-time high, unemployment rising, cost of living continuing to rise, and social media platforms constantly pushing gambling, I can't imagine how high the craze for this addiction becomes. So if you're going to do it, just please take into account, is this really the best place to put my time, money, and energy? What opportunities am I passing up for this? And if you lose, will this set you back from a future you'll be proud of? For me at least, it just isn't worth it anymore. And I'd rather stop myself now so I could work on something I can control.